Well, welcome to A Little Bit Culty, Dr. Shefali.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We have so many questions and 8,000 false starts from...
We've done like half the podcast already off camera. So.
But as you know, we weekly interview people who are ex-members of different groups, different experiences with coercive control, organizations that are a little bit to a lot culty. But you woke up out of a system. You talk a lot about being brainwashed and indoctrinated by our cultural programming. How did you wake up and what did you wake up out of?
Yeah, so, I was pretty young when I had my first awakening, when I was at a very intense meditation retreat, where I realized that the ways I had been thinking were really not mine. They were programmed, they were conditioned. But in meditation, you're allowed that opportunity to realize, oh my goodness, these thoughts, these belief systems, they're not mine. And typically that is one of the most common epiphanies that meditators have, because you create that pause between your self and your thinking. There's a space and a pause before the next thought comes, and there's a space where you get to watch your thoughts and you realize, oh my goodness, that's my culture's thought, and that's my mom's thought, and that's my dad's thought, and that's not mine. And then it begs the next question, well, then who am I? So I had my first awakening around the age of 21. And then since then, I've been on this quest to help myself and help others uncover the false layers of their cultural conditioning and arrive at a more deep, original, authentic essence.
That is a beautiful mission.
Yes.
And I've heard you say in some of your books, like the structure of, and we're not banging on men or whatever, but the structure of like the patriarchy.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you. No banging on you. It's just there's so much, especially with Radical Awakening, which I'm almost done and I'm loving it and feels like the perfect timing for me right now as I'm like just embracing my journey back into personal development after being burned so badly. But it feels like that's such a tidal wave that's happening right now in women of our age, and especially in our 40s, going like, okay, I'm not just a mother, and I'm not just these things. Who am I? Who is my authentic self? Can you speak a little bit about the programming specifically? I don't want to say the cult of the patriarchy sounds so ominous, but
yeah.
Well, the patriarchy affects everyone. It's not just women. I mean, men end up being perpetrators of things that, we see it in extremes in religion too, where these seemingly good people are accelerating these agendas somewhat unwittingly.
Yes.
Right? And you have to build awareness around that.
Right.
So.
I'm not against the patriarchy, just like I wouldn't be against the matriarchy. I think, as I've talked about in the book, I'm against the toxic parts of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But there can be a toxic femininity too, and I talk about it in my book, A Radical Awakening. So the a patriarchy is just, leadership. Archy is a problematic word. It can be an oligarchy, right? So we have to be careful, but it's okay to have leadership. So if the men are in leadership, that's beautiful. If it's benevolent, if it's compassionate, if it's led by an alpha leadership that understands cooperation and understands community, it becomes toxic when the male agenda for leadership converts to domination, converts to separation, converts to exploitation. Competition, which can be healthy, becomes exploitation. Leadership becomes domination. So when things veer off center and become annihilative of others who are weaker than them, then it becomes toxic, right? So if it's a matriarchy, it's beautiful, but it could be a toxic matriarchy, right? So we have to be careful. It's not that we are against anyone leading, whether male or female. It's how they lead, right? So the new wave movement against the patriarchy by women or females or those who identify as such could also be toxic. It could just be reactive. It could be coming from a wounded place. So this idea that now I see so many women railing against that, oh, I'm not just a mom. I go, wait a minute, don't knock motherhood. Motherhood is amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And I feel women, because of their wound, are flailingly reactive against what they perceive as a perpetration against them, to not be pigeonholed as a mother, but then they're throwing everything out with it, like I so don't want to be identified as a mother that now I'm, reactive against it. And that's coming from a wounded place.
Right.
How can we be mothers and be everything else, but also realize maybe being a mother is a whole lot too?
Yes.
Right?
For
I mean,
sure.
how much can we be?
Do you remember, I don't know if it was like a year or two ago, and you were with some friends that were talking about being mothers and like just mothers, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
The just mother thing.
The just mother thing is
it's a thing.
reframed.
And listen, by no means am I like evolved to a certain point. Like I'm guilty of probably all the things that are toxic at some point in my life with the patriarchy. But as someone who watched my wife give birth to 2 kids, I was blown away. And I think it was, I can't remember who it was 2 of your friends. I was like, you guys need to slow your roll on that. And really recognize that like, if a guy can't take that in and be somewhat amazed and like appreciate that, it's certainly on him, but you guys don't have to take on the onus of feeling less, feeling like you're overweight or all those things. Like
or that
enjoy
we need to
it.
do more.
Enjoy the shit out of it.
Or we need to do more.
Yeah,
say we don't have to do it for financial reasons. Don't do it just for the ego of being in the male, masculine world of entrepreneurship and being a boss babe because you feel like being a mother is not enough.
Right.
That you can't come from that place.
And I hope you've never felt that. I mean, even
I think
even like when times and you're like, how do I look? I'm like, slow down, enjoy it. Like you're like, this is it. It's over once like.
I think what I resonate with specifically about that concept in the book is that there is so much of
societal.
Well, it's just societal meanings around all these roles and responsibilities and titles and the programming of where we are as women.
Yeah.
And I'm only now just willing to look at it because, as I said earlier, I got burned in personal development before. I got burned in
quite literally.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Metaphorically and literally, spiritually. No, it's true. But, I got bet on the wrong horse, and that whole drive.
Horse is being generous to Keith.
Bet on the wrong troll.
Yeah. There we go.
Troll gnome.
Yeah, there we go.
Sociopath. We can laugh here. We're in that stage of our healing. There's so much darkness we have to.
I've been in that stage for a while.
Nippy's humor is the main reason we are together and healing.
You know why? Because I think it's so healthy to laugh. It doesn't mean you're minimizing the trauma, but you're acknowledging that the human condition is shitty, and you will meet crappy people, and that's just life. And you just have to roll with the punches as you meet the beautiful people. You're going to meet deeply wounded, troubled souls as well.
Yes, and the absurdity of all of that. So exactly. So I'm on this path of 2005. I'm seeking. I want to understand myself, self-awareness. Like this. Probably the only reason I didn't read Conscious Parent back then is because I was so focused on NXIVM. Right. And this was like the way.
You had all the answers.
We had all the answers.
Right.
We were evangelical about it. I mean, to be.
We were.
Yeah,
we were evangelical personal development groupies. But we just to say that the irony isn't lost on me that the desire to understand our wounds and our templates and look back at our childhood and figure out what happened there that's informing us now and how can we evolve it. It all comes from the same place.
Yes.
So that's the second part of this discussion is how do we go on a personal development or spiritual journey and not get caught up in something toxic, or how do we keep our keep clear on that path without becoming dependent on another structure or another person or guru or system.
And I think that is the biggest red flag, the systems that are created around, what you went through. He had so many layers and so much propaganda and systems, and he institutionalized the self-growth process and ritualized it.
Right.
So the minute you create ritual and systemic indoctrination and that there is a pathway forward, right there, those are the red flags, because that's counterintuitive to growth. Growth is dynamic. Growth is serendipitous. Growth is organic. It doesn't require ritual or order or organization or rules. So those are red flags. Now we know. Now sashes or costume or garb, right? So I'm so against that. And that's what I teach in all my books. And really in conscious parenting, don't follow a systemic, indoctrinated, ritualistic, orderly approach to raising your children or growing yourself, because that is anti-true wisdom and evolution. Evolution is dynamic. It's so spontaneous and so serendipitous, and that's why it's risky. But and I think that's what NXIVM was against. It was against you taking your own risks. It cut you off. It severed you from your own guttural, raw human potential and took that power away by so ritualizing that it dumbed you down and dimmed you to a little robot, a puppet on a conveyor belt.
And pretended and professed to do the opposite.
And pretended it was wild and feral. So, when people come to me, I ignite or I help ignite and reflect back the feral, wild nature of our power and never take it away. And the surefire way to take away wild, feral power is ritualization. And people don't realize it. People love rituals, and there is some beautiful aspect to ritual. But when we get married to ritualization, you're actually dimming and dumbing the authentic, in the moment aliveness of the soul, right? If I tell you, okay, now, sorry, we have to stop this podcast. I have to light 15 candles. Right?
And sage.
And it sounds amazing, right? Sounds so beautiful, but I've just taken away your power. I've taken away your participation and I've controlled the whole situation.
Did you not feel what she's talking about when we show up every day and do?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Totally. Every day. Now, and sorry, you cannot come with your own organic essence and energy. You have to wear yellow and bow to me 5 times, right? It sounds like we're all doing it together and we're all in unison. But I have just robbed you of your initiative, of your own self-governance, right? So these are the ways that people slowly take away from children, take away from members, right? If you come to my events or my courses, it's wild. Like there is no, you'll be like, who's in charge here? Because I'm not invested or I'm not teaching control. I'm teaching the opposite of control, which is inner alignment, and you follow that, you will have the greatest control.
That's so wise.
It's a great point because, and I'll share with you how they normalize that in the module. We had the very first module, I believe, was called Rules and Rituals. That was the first one, right?
Oh my goodness, really?
Rules and Rituals.
The very first one. And they basically went through, where do you see rules and rituals in society? And they got the audience to participate. Your honor, school, all these things. So
uniforms,
basically what he did, I think, very well is he basically said, hey, look, this is normal. You've already done this before in your lives. God. School and all the other things, which how many people of us resisted school?
Right.
How many people of us don't like
but you just have an authority issue.
Right.
But there's also people that come in and go, where's the structure?
Yeah.
Because we've been conditioned to it. So seeing the rules and rituals can actually make people feel a little bit more comfortable. And what they don't necessarily recognize is that they feel comfortable having their power taken away from them.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Yeah. So I'm doing this event, Evolve, and you're coming for it. People will ask me, what is the timetable, right? Like months in advance, as if I know. And I say to them, it will be revealed like a day before, if even. Yeah. You have to get comfortable with just coming to experience the moment, right? I cannot, if I created a timetable and rules and rituals a month before, that means I'm not living in the present moment. I want to show up with my most recent, authentic, best self, which will arrive a day before, right?
Right.
So, but look at what they did with you, right? They normalized it by telling you that you're already acculturated. And so for those who want the structure, what they should have said is you will find the structure through your own inner alignment, through your own inner listening, through your own inner knowing. But they were too terrified to give you that much power, right?
No,
and that's what the school system does, right?
Totally
that's what
agree.
every system does.
Agree.
The religious institutions, the judicial institutions, the marital institutions, all of them have codes, rules, systems of conduct. And if you violate them, there's punishment in hell.
And also you're bad. What? Okay. You're bad.
You're bad. That's what I mean. You cannot violate these rules. So look how they steal your inner empowerment.
Well, it's somewhat of a catch-22 because maybe you don't agree with this, but I do think structures have a value, right? Like for me, I had a routine when I was trying to achieve something. I had a discipline, and from that discipline, it freed me up to be a better athlete, a better speaker, or whatever it is, because I had some rules and some practices. So there's value to it. So how do you discern, or how do people discern when those tools are okay, if they're aligned with whatever it is you're trying to achieve, and then when people just go hog wild and they want to abuse, what is the thing that can reel them in? It has to be some sort of structure, but law and order, or whatever it is.
But when the structure is maniacally imposed,
it causes chaos.
It causes more chaos. And if you give power to the external beyond listening to yourself in conjunction, so I talk about the balance between the form-based world and the formless. And there needs to be a beautiful synergy between both. But sadly, in our excessively materialistic, power-hungry world, form is given too much reliance, and the form comes from the outside.
Right.
And that's where you will mess up. So the formless, which is our own inner stamp on things, our own inner authority, if that is not in equal or greater balance with the form of the world, we will lose our way. And sadly, because we raise our children with such little reliance on their inner formless essence, and we teach them to rely on the outer form-based world, we have automatons in the world who then lose their way. You know, all of us have lost our way because we were indoctrinated in that system, which overly relied on the external to validate us.
Right.
And oftentimes they become the perpetrator of the structure.
And they become, because they think that's the way.
Yeah.
Right.
I was really curious, since you've read my story and we've chatted about this a little bit. What do you see certain templates? And as a doctor and psychologist, like you really studied all the different things that can happen in childhood and how that creates certain ego masks and all those things you talk about in your books. Do you see certain patterns of what makes people more susceptible to things like NXIVM or a false guru or getting dependent on something externally?
Well, I think if I was to say, and I always want to say that there is no predictability, who makes the malignant narcissist, which person becomes the malignant narcissist and the Keith Rainiers, and who becomes the victim of him, it's hard to predict. But for the ones who I think fall into his or others' predatory hands, I think they are the prototypical, good girl, people pleaser, who overachieved in childhood, got their validation from the external world.
Yeah, that's my list.
Or didn't get it from someone.
Who didn't learn to rely on it within themselves and became hungry for it from the external world. And kept getting their accolades from the outside, but didn't get it enough. It's never going to be enough.
Right.
Because whenever it's from the outside, it's always capricious and transient. So you're always thirsty and you become an addict for it.
Yeah.
So the very good, very sweet, beautiful, from the inside and out, caring, prototypical, silent, obedient, good girl is a danger for herself, to herself, because she will grow up typically to be prey to predators. And the good boy too. But the good boy a little bit less, because the good girl is on steroids compared to the good boy, right? Because she biologically is so nurturing anyway and caring anyway. Just our female biology predisposes us to being more nurturing anyway. So now we want to take care of everybody. Now we want to save everybody. And then, I mean, that's what happened to you, right? You fell in that role so easily.
Yeah, every adjective you just described, I put on my list. And partly why I wanted to come to Evolve, because I feel like I've become aware of those things, but I don't think I've evolved those things. Like I am in Atlanta. I'm new here. I'm still doing all of those things, but in a different way. And like maybe I'm more aware of it. But the core wounds are still there.
Right. You know? So we can still keep a lot of those qualities, but heal the broken place that they were emerging from. Yeah. Because I'm still all those things too. I've just learned to really take care of myself in a better way before I become the good girl.
Right.
So I'm still a good girl like you are. I'm still a savior. I'm still a people pleaser. but I'm not doing it from an automatic, reactive, broken, desperate place that I used to do it for really most of my life till a few years ago. So I can't talk too much, but I'm healing that and coming from a place of strength now.
And that's one of the things I like about you is that you're like, you're not pretending to be, you know, the enlightened Buddha. You're like, these are some of the things I'm aware of and I'm doing it with you.
Yeah. That's another good red flag. If anyone claims to be enlightened or an example, far superior, calls themselves a guru, puts themselves on a higher rank, that's a sure red flag of a malignant narcissist. That
a higher chair.
A higher chair. Big chairs.
Yeah, big chairs.
I don't know whether you...
Across the board, big chairs have been...
I love Osho. Do you know Osho?
Yeah.
But I also am very aware that he was probably extremely narcissistic.
Yeah, we found some...
And his big chair, you know, he had a big chair. Yeah. So people who walk around with their chair, carry big chairs, big costumes, big garb. You have to really... scrutinize and run away fast.
I'm going to send you our episode on Osho because Wild Wild Country, it turned out just scratched the surface. Yeah. And it was worse.
Yeah, I know because my mother lives right behind the Osho ashram in India. Yeah, so I know all about Osho as well. And most Indians do because we grew up hearing about him.
Right.
His teachings had wisdom though.
Right.
Yeah, that's the danger.
And you have to look at the whole person, right? So you can't have amazing pearls of wisdom drop out of your mouth, but then you're living the most debauched life, right? You have to be integrated. And that's the thing. Many people are not integrated and their ego stops them from being integrated. They have the intellectual wisdom, but they haven't integrated it into the day-to-day, which is hard to do, right? I mean, ask me. I screw up every day because I'm like, damn, this wisdom is hard to integrate. But I own it. And that's the human part of our existence. And we need to relate to people from a human place, not from a godlike place.
Right.
The distinction is, it seems that you want to integrate it. It seems that they have an intellectual understanding of what it looks like and sounds like, but aren't necessarily driven to integrate it.
They don't care to integrate it.
And so now they're just leveraging
it for the power.
So now it's serving them as opposed to them serving it.
Correct. Because if you leverage it just for power, you can make all this money, you can have all this glory. When you try to integrate it into real life, you realize with humility how difficult the F this is. And then you come off your own pedestal and you are going to now reveal yourself as a human. They're not interested in that.
You have to sit in the equal chair.
You have to sit in the equal chair, yes. And that's a true teacher. A true teacher sits on the ground with their people. Right? If you see His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and there may be cobwebs in that closet too. I'm not going to idolize anybody, including myself or anybody. So, but I have watched him at least enter a room and he will bow lower than everyone. Then everyone else bows lower than him. Then he's bowing lower than them. And we're all on the floor. But at least
it's a bow off.
It's a bow off. Like, who can bow lower? But at least he tries to emulate humility. And many of these teachers don't even try, right? So these are the signs we have to look for in a good wisdom teacher. Are they humble? Are they real? Are they honest? Are they accountable? You know, or is it just a power-hungry trip?
I thought it was interesting what you said in our Instagram live the other day about how you encourage your audience not to clap when you're done, and they can't. They can't not.
Because we've been indoctrinated in this guru culture of being a follower and having leaders from school. Right? So at one of my summits, Evolve, 2 years ago, I think I said, I'm going to challenge you to not clap because it annoys the hell out of me. It disturbs me. It stops my flow. And I don't need the accolade. I don't need it. And when I ask them, why do you do it? Why do we as an audience clap? And they go, well, we feel bad for the person on stage. We feel obligated. Then we feel distracted. It's a relief from stress and anxiety.
So they do it for themselves.
And so I'm like, wait, so you're doing it all for you because I'm here to tell you I don't need it. And they still couldn't stop it.
Wow.
It's just
because we're indoctrinated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And also to show we're good girl. We're so grateful.
Good, right? We're learning.
I was the learner always in the front row, by the way, and Nippy was in the back row.
I was in the back
sleeping,
row.
Napping.
I was to take care of myself.
Yes.
That's why he didn't get promoted to the green sash.
I gave up on that. Your ego had some more questions, is that right?
My ego has so many questions.
You and I had a conversation about like, so you have a lot of the tactics of indoctrination, and which are moored in good principles, like this is going to be hard, the things that we were talking about.
We just had a couple of
what I'm saying is the faux guru and the person really trying to help often
kind of
look the same and have a lot of the things. And we've done enough work to know that the faux guru comes in and is like, oh, what are they doing? And just kind of taking notes, and they're mimicking in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like Keith used to do this faux humble thing.
For someone who's authentic.
Yeah. What's the faux humble?
Do your impression.
He would just lean forward and kind of, it's interesting, one might find that the world in this aspect is, I'm choosing my words here, somewhat unpleasant. And he'd do this whole like he was thinking, and the depth of his thoughts were informing all his actions. And some of us were like,
thing about like, I'm not your guru because you can't even, you'd be like,
you put me on the spot. It's not
sorry.
Okay.
But let me ask you this. Did you not, when you were sitting in his presence, so this is one of the signs that I think reveal whether somebody's real, not a real guru, because I don't believe in a guru anyway, just a real human, is did you feel his energy? Like we are feeling our energy.
Yeah.
You did. So he was capable of showing his heart.
No.
Oh, that's what I mean.
No.
So how did you rationalize not seeing or feeling his heart?
I was missing it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what they do? They say something's wrong with you?
Yes.
I didn't necessarily walk around thinking someone was wrong with me.
I did.
I had just accepted that's who he was. I stopped challenging it. And I accepted the narrative, and I didn't see behaviors that conflicted with what his persona was. Meaning I didn't see abuses. I didn't see reactivity.
But you also did not see his heart.
No.
Right. So see, that's it.
In fact, here's what I saw.
Yeah.
He had glasses on, and I would see kind of dead eyes.
I thought I wasn't smart enough.
Yeah.
And I wasn't depthy enough.
I wasn't suspecting. I just thought, okay.
Right. See, because I think the indoctrination happened even before he came on stage.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. So you were already feeling
looking for the
lesser
good.
than, and was so told that this is the superior God that you're going to meet. So you didn't even come in challenging. You didn't even come in discerning.
No.
My challenges had already been
dumbed and
dimmed by asking other people that I trusted.
He'd been propped up by other people.
Yes.
I respected him. I put him on a pedestal. So when I didn't connect with him in that way, I thought it was my limitation.
Yes.
As not, and one of the things I got, in trouble for is, for my book, controlling, dependent. I don't know how much I talked about this, but the other thing was superficial.
Yeah.
So my lack of depth stopped me from being able to connect to him on a deep, because he's so deep.
I see. He's so deep, you can't even reach his soul until you have such soul.
Yes.
So the reason you're not seeing his soul is because you don't have it. Oh my God, what a trip.
I know.
But connected to that, this line of defense that he created with these other people.
Was smart.
That's another big, for me, a red flag. And I'll tell you how it plays out in my life.
Tell me.
So people tell me that I should have more of a barrier. Because honestly, if I won't even say it on air, how many people work for me. I will not even reveal that. Okay, I'll give the illusion that I have an army. Okay, but I have an army of one. Okay, now I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
So people tell me you should have a defense. You should not be so accessible. But here's the thing: I don't want other people being a barrier between me and my people, like my I don't even want to say the word my audience, but I say it in quotes.
Community.
The word my is problematic to me. That's why even in the book for my child, in all my parenting books, I put my in quotes. I can't even say my child properly because I put it in quotes.
It's actually an interesting reframe I didn't even consider, but
So the my is problematic for me. So please know I say it in quotes, but I can't always give the bunny ears. So, but people think that people in power, like whatever power we have, should be barricaded from the lay people by an army. And that's really a sad and sick philosophy. I want to be accessible, and I don't want the audience to be inaccessible to me. Meaning I want to touch my audience. I don't want a barrier. But the strategy that many leaders use is to have this very thick wall between them and quote unquote their people for this precise reason, so that they get indoctrinated by their second and third in command before they even reach them. So then by the time they reach the real person, their instincts are dulled.
Right.
Their own heart is dulled and barricaded by the barricade. You see?
And also it's dangerous because you can't
demystify.
Well, you can't control. Like we asked this. So we had Eckhart Tolle on our podcast, and we were like,
he's a friend of mine.
Yes, I know. He endorsed your book, and he's randomly popped up into my life the week we left Nexium.
Yeah,
and
it's a crazy story.
It's a crazy story. I'll tell you that sometime. But we chatted a lot about like baby with the bathwater and toxic spirituality and stuff. But one of the things I asked him was like, how do you make sure he's got a big organization. Like, how do you make sure that, I mean, humans are humans. How do you keep them in check? And I don't think he actually really had an answer for that, if I recall. But with one person, you're safer, I think, in that way, because you can keep more of an eye on things and make sure that people don't abuse their power in the structure that's attached to your name, which is a real risk, I would think.
But also when you have this barricade of protection, it sounds like it's healing for the person it's protecting. But it also barricades that person from being vulnerable and therefore stops their own healing. So Keith, as I've understood it, kept himself so barricaded and in this protected bubble that he himself was never to be vulnerable. But also he then limits his own growth, right? He's stopping his growth. He's controlling who's around him, who challenges him, but then he's not growing. For me personally, I want to grow. I want to be vulnerable. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to just edify others. I'm here to edify myself. But we have to interact with people in a very human way to have that real life energy, right?
Yeah, and he had handlers.
Handlers.
And people
that were obedient.
Exactly. And so no one challenges
No one challenges him.
So then you don't grow.
Yeah.
And that seems to be consistent with anyone who's a thought leader or even just like a culty business leader in different spaces where no one around them can even say, I don't think that's a good idea.
It's not.
Right? And so no one's challenging them. So then so here's Keith going, I'm going to brand all the women.
Right.
I'm just going to brand them.
I'll just create my own little world where I'm cozy and safe, but that's completely anti-growth. That's anti-life.
And anti-humanity.
Anti-humanity, anti the whole message. The message is to be in this together, to be what your pain is my pain, my heart is your heart, to interconnect. And these very leaders are creating separation and disconnection and amplifying the unworthiness that the people came there to eradicate in the first place. They're increasing it, you know?
Yeah.
They're saying you are unworthy of this rank or to meet me without these specifications. That's it's going to create more unworthiness in people, right? But that's the goal.
That's the goal. And and one step further, he wouldn't even give you a time. It'd be like at some point in the next 24 hours, and you'd just be waiting.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it could be the middle of the night. You have to keep your phone on.
Well, it was preference to be at the middle of the night because your defenses are
but this is, what I teach in conscious parenting is so against this, right? And I'm telling the parent, I mean, forget a cult leader. I'm telling even the parent, they're not allowed to wake their child up in the middle of the night or keep the child waiting. And the parent says to me, well, it's my child. I get to do what I want. It's my child. How can you tell me not to do this? And I go against parents, right? This has been my whole movement. Even if they came from your womb and blasted it and you put on 30 pounds and you don't have a uterus anymore, I don't care. You do not own this human being.
Yeah, you're not giving them the bill.
Yeah, exactly. They don't owe you anything. Too bad for you. You decided to have the child. Now you own it. And you will not glorify yourself through this relationship. So I don't even allow a parent to do it. Talk about a leader, right?
Oh man, I wish we could just put Keith Raniere right here and you could just show him.
But that's my hope is that when we raise children to be empowered, to speak up, then they will not be prey like you and I were to our programming.
Yeah.
Right.
And do you feel comfortable sharing what happened to you recently? How you got taken advantage of?
Sure. I'm not above being taken advantage of. So I've been royally fucked many times by many people and taken advantage of. So I had a very close person on my team who, literally stole over $1 million from me.
Wow.
And now there's a case against her and she's recently been arrested. And it's been really it was really traumatic at first because I began to doubt myself. How could you be so stupid? And then people would come to me and say, oh, what did you do to attract this? And I really have a whole way of debunking this whole idea that spirituality sometimes propagates, that it's, our attraction and something's faulty with our vibration. No, there was nothing faulty with my vibration. I did not attract this. I've learned from it because of my power to alchemize negative into power. But I did not attract it. And for anyone out there who is feeling that they are a victim of some really bad eggs out there, and there are bad eggs out there, they need to feel empowered that they did not attract it. It's not their fault. There's nothing wrong with their vibration. It's just that sometimes bad things happen to good people. And we need to own it. We can say with pride, I was a victim of a really bad person's evil. And it's okay. Yeah. There's no shame in being a victim. There is shame, perhaps, in being an indulgent, victimized person.
Right, victim mentality.
Victim mentality or staying in victimhood. But there's no shade on you if you're a victim. Like, speak up, victim. I was molested in my childhood. I've been speaking up about it ever since because I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I feeling bad about it? And
Great point.
And that's how spirituality sometimes gets it wrong, by making the victim feel there was something wrong in their aura or their vibration or, no. Let's learn from it. Let's grow from it. But don't feel bad about being a victim. There's shitty people out there. You've had them. I've had them. And no amount of wisdom can counteract a shitty person coming in front of you. You just have to learn to deal with it. People are masters at concealing. And the beautiful caveat, though, is that their true colors will be revealed.
Yes.
But sometimes after a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And so this person, eventually I did find out about this person. Well, I one day just went into the back corners of my bank account and my platforms and discovered the theft, which I had not gone to before. I did not go all the way back, because I just trusted her. But then one fine day I said, hey, something's off. Let me go deep into the back, coffers of my treasury. And I realized that I didn't have the passwords and things were, concealed from me. And within 15 hours, I understood that she had been stealing from me. So then I, got really upset with myself. Oh my goodness, it took you 3 years to do this. Why didn't you do it sooner? Well, because this person was really good at concealing. And I trusted. I was a good person who trusted. So I had compassion for myself. And I want people listening, and for people like, who've had experiences like you, not to berate themselves, because that's just a whole other cycle of shame.
Right.
No, we need to go, I was really, really good. I was really kind. I was really compassionate, really trusting. And I got stolen from. Okay, it's just money. Now I will recover. And I will help others not to make the same mistakes I made. I will try to teach them to look out for the red flags. But I went back to all my red flags. Man, even if I had paid attention to every red flag, she was lazy. She didn't work hard enough. She wasn't honest. I found her lying about this and that. But I had so much compassion for her that even then I could have never, ever imagined the depth of the abuse that she financially inflicted on me. So I have to forgive myself for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you brought up a good point. Something I wanted to ask you is, as one of the tenets of spirituality that I feel gets warped in the wrong hands, which is this concept of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
When you have, let's say we're having a struggle and I could blame him, want him to be different, or I could look, okay, well, this upset is within me. This is from my programming. This is my template, my expectations, my parents' divorce, whatever you want to look at, right? Yeah. There's such a beauty in personal responsibility and looking within and the inquiry. And then that in the hands of somebody like Keith or somebody who wants to abuse, it protects them from bad behavior.
Yeah. There is no personal responsibility without also the space to acknowledge your personal pain. So, for example, if a woman comes to me and she's 30 years old and she's upset about her parents divorcing when she was 6. As a therapist, I will tell her, okay, you have to now take personal responsibility for your own life right now. You're 30 years old. We have to move on. And I want to hear about your pain.
Right.
So what they did with you is they just dumped it all back on you, but they didn't hear where you were upset, where you were angry, where you had feelings about them, right? Even to this day, if my daughter brings up pain around my divorce from her father, I will say, come on now, we have to move on. And I'm so sorry that I caused you pain. So nowhere did they take ever personal responsibility for the pain that they caused you or that you had misgivings. There was no space for you to show up in your confusion, in your doubt, in your misgivings. There was no space for that to be validated. So that's not personal responsibility. That's victim blaming. That's just victim blaming. Like, no, you have a problem. It's your problem.
Yeah.
There's no integrity to
and not only that, my reaction to what happened was the very reason why DOS needed to exist.
Yeah.
So took it to the next level. Not only could they not admit that they had made a mistake and hurt me, but they
doubled down.
They were like,
they doubled down.
And this is why we need a women's movement.
Yeah, so any objection to the narrative becomes evidence of the need for the abuse.
Yeah. And what I try to encourage, so at my summits or in my courses, is dissidence. Right? Speak up. Tell me that you don't like this. Tell me where it's poking you. Tell me where this is rubbing you wrong. And let's have a real healthy debate about this in live. At one of my last Evolves, a woman came to me in the break and she told me, I think she even called me a bitch, or she said I was acting like one. Okay. But I welcome it.
Yeah.
And she said, I flew all the way from Australia. I want my money back. This is awful. I don't agree with what you've been teaching and I'm having a real problem. So what I did is I called her on stage and right in front of everyone, I made her repeat what she said to me privately out in the open. And I did a whole process with her. And of course, we then find out that her boyfriend had broken up with her. She was really feeling disenfranchised. She was taking it out on me because I wasn't saying things that were, coddling her. I was pushing her to look at her own self. But I did it in front of everybody. And she was angry with me. And I said, I will give you back all the money, but come on stage and talk it out in an honest, open way in front of everybody. And it was serendipitous. It was in the moment. People thought I had staged it because she was at the end of it, on the floor in a heap, totally realizing how she had projected on me. She thought I was the bad mother and all her mother issues and her boyfriend leaving her abandonment issues were coming up. But I showed people that I wasn't afraid when people are upset with me. I know it's not about me. And I did not blame her. We went through a process together where she authentically wrestled with her issues on stage. So this is what I do when people are upset with me. I go, okay, come, let's talk about it in front of everybody. You want to be upset with me? Let's talk about it in front of everybody. I'm not afraid. Tell me how you don't like my teachings. I see why my teachings can be provocative, but I'm not hiding from people, right? You have to expose. You're transparent.
Yeah.
That's good.
So these are all the ways we get to know whether somebody's real or somebody's just hiding behind the role, right? People often ask me, how do you stay grounded? And I say, it's so easy to stay grounded. And the way to stay grounded, it's so easy. How does one not stay grounded? I'm curious why people don't stay grounded. But the reason why people don't stay grounded is because they have confused the function they play in people's lives and the role they play with who they are. So I'm very clear. I am a little bit of Dr. Shefali, but I'm a whole lot of Shefali, right? And I'm very clear that when people come to a summit or people take my courses, they are seeing Dr. Shefali, which means they are having their own relationship with Dr. Shefali, which has nothing to do with me. So they can love Dr. Shefali, but it's not me they're loving. They're loving the role I'm playing in their lives. But they're projecting a whole lot on that role. That has nothing to do with me. So, but if they're upset with Dr. Shefali, I want to participate. I want to understand. I want to have compassion. It's not like I just absolve myself of responsibility, but I also don't get carried away with the adulation that Dr. Shefali gets, right? Shefali is not getting the adulation. Dr. Shefali is getting the adulation. And there's a very clear, although it's the same person, I'm very clear that I'm playing a role in people's lives and I cannot abuse it, but I also cannot get heady with it and I cannot run with it. But also when they demonize Dr. Shefali, I don't need to go into the gutters of depression.
Yeah, you don't have to agree with it either.
I don't have to agree with it either.
Yeah.
There's a healthy relationship there.
That's good.
One of the things to reframe the victim shame thing is, there was a lot of shame when we came out of like, I'm embarrassed, felt stupid about it. There was a lot of questions like, how do you let that happen to you?
Right.
And my response since we've done this is, it didn't happen to us. We happened to Keith.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He was abusing the whole time, and he finally met a wall of people who actually are good.
Yes.
And did the right thing.
Right.
And that's why he's sitting in a jail cell for 120 years.
And it's okay if it takes time.
Yeah.
It's okay. Things take time. It's okay you took time to let it percolate and let it fester, and you did get taken advantage of. It's okay. But then you came out on the right side.
The universe is fair.
I did too.
Yeah.
I took 3 years to figure out this person. But then, guess what? Who's the winner now? Who's the loser, right? So it's okay if things take time.
And even in terms of winning and losing, I just feel like good won.
Yes.
Like in terms of like, I was 27 when I signed up. I think you were 27 as well. I sought out to do a good thing.
Yes.
And I ended up doing a good thing.
Yes, exactly. So the process, it takes time.
It's not how I designed it and how I thought it was going to go. But
not only that, you are now alchemizing it even more.
Yes.
You're talking about it here. You know how many people you're helping, right? So I'm going to make good out of that betrayal that happened to me as well. I'm going to help other people.
Yeah.
But we cannot live our lives pretending that if we're just good enough, nothing bad will happen to us. That's dangerous.
That's baloney.
Really, it's baloney and dangerous. Because then when bad things happen, we begin to say, oh, maybe I'm not a good person. No, that has nothing to do with how good a person you are. Life happens. And in fact, let more bad people come into my life. It's okay. I will alchemize it and I will make something powerful out of it. We cannot cocoon ourselves from quote unquote bad people.
Totally. There's a great quotation I read recently, Plato. It was like, the consequences for not getting involved with politics or whatever, politicians, whatever, is you end up being ruled by inferior people.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying get involved with politics, but I think it's a great metaphor for get involved with certain things.
It's okay.
Because if you don't, those bad minds who are motivated to do badly will end up be making decisions that affect you.
Exactly. And I always say, better me, good it happened to me because I can handle it and I will take this person out.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be even attracted to a Keith Raniere or a quote unquote bad person, because ultimately we will figure it out.
Yeah.
It's okay how it started. It's about how it ends.
Yeah.
Right. So and it's okay if the process is murky and mucky. It's what came out of it. What is the outcome of all of it? How did we alchemize it? How did we metabolize it for the greater good?
Look at what we get to do now.
Yeah, look
how
what we
cool
get to
is this?
do. Yes. And
we're doing what we set out to do.
Yes, and I got to meet you, and now you're coming to Evolve. I mean, all of this because of the work you're doing in the aftermath of one of the biggest traumas of your life.
It's a gift.
Yes.
And how am I going to get can we make an action plan for Evolve if I get triggered? Do you have whiteboards? Do you use whiteboards?
No.
Okay, good.
I barely use PowerPoints. People have to beg me to.
Do you use sashes?
No,
do you use word salad? I'm just going to preempt it. I'm just get them all out right here.
How big is the chair?
I stand the whole time. Yeah, I for years I didn't even put it on PowerPoint because I said to myself, if people don't feel it and don't walk away with a resonance that's visceral, they don't need to get it cerebrally, right? But now I sometimes use PowerPoints. But it's all about inner work and growth. But it's been so bastardized that I feel embarrassed sometimes to say I'm a wisdom teacher. I can't stand those words myself.
Or thought leader.
Because it's been bastardized.
That's the casualty to all these guys doing that is that someone can always say, oh, you're like this, you're like that. And it just makes it harder for people who are authentic because that space has been so bastardized.
Well, we got in trouble from our audience. I may or may not keep this in. Will Rutherford, who's our editor, when we had Eckhart on, because
I don't think let it out. Like I think it's important for people to, hey man, we're not perfect.
Some people loved it. Some people loved it. But because he talks and can talk and talk and talk, it can sound like word salad.
Eckhart,
yeah.
Okay.
For in our audience, anyone who'd been in a spiritual, because there's lots of spiritual based cults.
Yeah.
They were like, no. And I was like, I get it. It's triggering. And then they were mad at me saying that I'm just saying that they're just triggered, like it's their issue.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right? What I was trying to say was, if it bothers you, skip it.
Yeah. Can I just say that I have met many, many quote unquote thought leaders, and Eckhart is one of the very few. If there are any more, I don't even know. I just think it's just him who's authentic.
He's the real deal.
He's the real deal. He's no nonsense. I've sat with him. Yeah, I adore him and I adore his teachings. And I've been around the block with all sorts of teachers as well.
I agree. Echo that.
He's not abusing people.
No, listen, I went and picked him up at his place.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mansion. It was
very humble.
Very modest place where he lives with his wife. And unless it's all a front.
Yeah. The people around him, I'm not so sure, but he himself is
he's the real deal.
Yes.
No, and he came and spoke, and he asked me questions about me that I was like, how
Eckhart
do you know
is
that?
the most adorable human being ever.
So
I have nothing but respect for him. And I do, when I go back and listen to that episode, I mean, if I like have self-reflection on it, I was a little bit like, what's the word? Fawning.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit.
Well,
so I try to not.
For me, it was, he had a stream of consciousness going, and I didn't feel there was a natural pause to ask a question. Yeah. So I kind of felt like, okay, well, I'm going to let him go.
Yeah. Well, Eckhart's older. He's just so used to being a teacher. You give him a mic, now you're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, I was going to stop short of saying that, but I kind of felt.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, this isn't harmful.
Well, but the conversation did sort of plant the seeds of even what we're talking about now, is like, how do you go on a personal development journey? How do you, if you've been duped, how do you separate the baby out with the bathwater and not throw it all out? Because we spent 12 years there. I didn't want to do that. And so much of what we learned was good. And I swear he stole from your books and Eckhart and Power versus Force and probably, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think basics.
Power versus Force. He took literal verbatim.
I don't want to throw that out.
Yeah, but you take the teachings. You dump the teacher.
Yeah.
That's always the rule. You always dump the teacher. Even when people come to me, I say, dump me. Keep the teaching. Don't take me home with you. Right?
We can't take you home?
No,
this was our plan.
You take the words that resonate. That's it. And dump the rest.
Okay.
Dump the teacher.
So your 12 years were not in vain.
No.
The teachings are delicious.
Yeah.
I love Osho's teachings, but the Osho himself I have issue with, right?
Yeah.
But I adore his teachings, and I can do both.
Right.
And this is the art of a higher, transcendent, evolved space of living. It's okay to see the shadow in people, but take what you need out of them and dump the rest.
Okay.
And so your 12 years were not in vain. You
I
learned
agree.
beautiful things.
I agree. We had lots of conversations with a lot of intelligent people.
Yes.
Volumes of conversations. We got to understand people, impulses, psychology, dynamics that inform what we're doing now.
Yes.
Undoubtedly.
And even if all the 12 years just got you to a place of realizing all the things you don't like, that's huge.
Yeah.
So it's okay. We never look at anything that happened to us
I don't
from
like
a place
Albany,
of
New
lack.
York.
You don't like Albany, New York. There you go. See?
You don't
like sashes.
I don't like sashes.
You don't like rules and rituals.
Big chairs.
You don't like big chairs. See, so much information.
And now we're learning to, trust our gut again, which is another, we know we skirted around this issue a little bit in the live that we did, is a lot of people have been asking, like, okay, we have this feeling that's I'm uncomfortable. You always need to go through discomfort to grow.
Yes.
How do you know?
I know.
When it's like a trigger that points to something versus saying, get the fuck out of here.
So you test it out, right? You test it to see, is this just discomfort or is this real icky red flags?
Yeah.
Because many people don't like me too right away. And I'm like, what the hell did I do? So then I know it's like, okay, you need to go work on yourself. You're just projecting a whole lot onto me because you think I'm, I look this certain way. So I definitely can't be that because of how I look or how I sound, or I'm from India. People have solid projections against me, which are unfair. But I tell them, go test me, go listen to me. Don't just dump me out. Test me out. And then if after 40 hours of listening to me, you still think I'm icky and yucky, then you shouldn't be around me. Then I'm a danger to you.
Yeah.
Because it's not about me. It's about the teachings. Maybe you're just not vibing with the teachings right now. But if you just all out, as soon as you see me, say, oh, I think Shefali is a manipulative bitch. That's not fair.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, what did I do? But people will do that.
No,
it's true.
I saw her one time and I decided she was a bitch because of how I look. How did you decide that?
some people are a scratch looking for an itch.
Yeah. So then I tell people, sit with it, test it out. That's why I give so much free content to test it out for free.
Yeah.
Don't just dump me out and then decide. And there's a difference between, a little bit of suspicion to all out ick. There's a big spectrum there. So good to be suspicious, test it out, but let's also adapt. Maybe give this person a chance too, Give me a chance.
So this podcast is free on our platforms. People will listen to it. If they decide they're like, hey, we want to do more, want to come see Dr. Shefali in Atlanta live and dip our toes back into personal development, what can they expect out of that?
Yeah. So I only do one in-person event myself, although I go for many talks all around the world. I only have one signature event that I do once a year, and I'm even thinking of doing it only once every 2 years. But this year, it's in 3 weeks in Atlanta. Sarah Edmondson is going to be on the stage with me, and we're so excited, and she's going to be book signing. So it's my in-person event. It's a weekend retreat. I call it my masterclass. It's live. I mean, there's nothing like it. I grow so much from it. It's fun. It's raunchy. It's X-rated at times, and it's very provocative. So if people want to learn from me and Sarah and come meet us in person, they can join us at Evolve. They can go to my website, get all the details, and I'm giving listeners a 20% discount with the code EVOLVE20.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. And there's 2 other people that are going to be there too, which I'm really excited about.
The First Lady of Canada, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau.
Oh, wow.
And the most amazing Elena Brower, who's a mystic yoga teacher, spiritual wisdom giver.
I can't wait to meet her too.
Amazing, yes.
Somebody sent me one of her spoken words.
She is beyond.
On Spotify when I was like in the worst of my worst in the healing. And it's like, it became a mantra for me.
Now, Elena is a teacher.
Yeah.
Like bar none. Yeah. And doesn't make any bones about being a guru. And she's just a teacher.
Yeah.
And
Boss babe?
What?
No,
boss babe?
No, she's not a boss. No.
She's so far from being a boss babe. Yeah, she's just a true wisdom giver.
That's awesome.
And that's what we are. And you'll meet my beautiful, my, in quotes, community.
Yeah.
They're not mine by any means. And they're just beautiful people who've understood consciousness and are propagators of conscious parenting, even if they're not parents. So this is a weekend for parents, non-parents, single, couple, polygamous, all kinds of people.
Amazing.
Bring the flag. Yes.
Again?
It's over Columbus weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, here in Atlanta. I'm coming with one of my best friends here who's got 5 children.
And your best friend from Vancouver too.
Is she coming now?
Aparna?
That's somebody else.
Oh, okay. That's somebody else.
Yeah, somebody
she's
else.
Coming too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think I know who that is.
Okay.
Because Vancouver is that small.
Yeah, you send someone to me, so she's coming too.
Oh,
yeah.
amazing.
I have limited scholarships. If people want to apply, they can write to my office. I have some scholarships
What's your office email?
office@drshefali.com. DR for Dr. Shefali.
I love that you offer that because I think that's important to make it accessible. And if people are living under a rock, where can they find you on social media?
I think my handle is at Dr. spelt out DOCTOR Shefali.
Okay. Yeah. And you have lots of great videos and little snippets.
So much free content. I have, during COVID, I did... every day I did a talk called Viral Wisdom. I did 72 of those, and I did 179 free meditations. So it's all on my YouTube channel.
I'm going to find those. Yeah. And I'll just put this up for the camera. Nippy's reading this.
The British version.
Oh, that's a British version.
Yes, it's okay. It's okay. We like the British. It's okay.
We haven't started. I actually am British, by the way.
That's the Awakened Family. I have 5 books. And then Radical Awakening, but I also have Superpowered. I have Out of Control.
Oh my goodness!
I have the Parenting Map.
Parenting Map. I'm almost done.
Yeah,
I'll be caught up by the time we get to Evolve.
Yes, lots of books.
Thank you so much for your time. This has been such a delight.
That was awesome.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for having me here.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Good luck at the event, everybody.
Yes.
High fives all around. All right.